I don't want to overstay my welcome here. I'll change guitars, though.
At least two. What was that one you were playing?
The guitar? This is a, whoops, hang on a second. Let me dial in the next setting here that I need. Where to go? And I will answer you. Here we go. Sorry.
It's a problem with pedals. You're like down here on the floor messing around. This is a guitar built by a young guy out of Telluride named Kent Hamblin. Actually, this guitar has an interesting story. I got this guitar used at Griffin in Palo Alto. And it was one of those guitars, you know, sometimes with the guitar you pick it up and you just know there's something about it. I played it for about an hour at Griffin and I went, I'll go home and think about it. And I got to the car and I said, that guitar is not going to be there tomorrow. And I went back in and bought it. Later I found out that it was a used guitar, so it's always kind of interesting. Who sells a guitar like this, you know? Well, we found out that it was that Neil sold the guitar originally. This guitar, Neil used to carry Kent's guitars at the Los Gatos Guitar Gallery.
He had 2 or 3 of them over a few years span.
Yeah.
He was just getting started.
Yep. I believe this is his, if I understand the numbering, this is his 11th guitar.
Yeah.
So Neil had sold it to somebody who apparently very quickly turned it around. I think you told me that it was somebody who often bought and sold guitars, and he was kind of embarrassed to come back in and tell you that he...
Bob Lowe.
Not the name any names, yeah. So I actually got this guitar from Neil just indirectly.
And Kent, it was an interesting story on Kent because he came into our store because another young builder from Arizona, a lot of builders go to luthier school in Arizona. And who's the other guy?
That was probably Mike Baronick.
Baronick, yeah. So Mike Baronick came into our store and just brought, hoping we would start selling his guitars, and we were knocked out. And, he sold his guitar, and he came back a couple months later with his friend, Kent Hamlin, who had been in school with him. And Kent had another guitar or two that he left with us, and this is apparently one of them.
I used to go down to Neil's store, and because Neil carried these small builders, I get on consignment or something with them. And so there were builders, you'd go into Neil's store, and instead of Taylor's and Martin's, you would find these builders that you'd never heard of. And every time I'd stop into the store, there was some cool guitar there by somebody. I had no idea who they were, but they were always nice. People like Ed Claxton, where I first played my first Claxtons, was at your store.
Me too.
Yeah. So anyway, and Kent unfortunately has had some kind of shop accident and he's no longer building. But Mike Baronick is doing very well, quite respected, and guitars are expensive and desired.
Are they any more or less affordable now than they were then? Were they affordable then?
Yes, I believe I paid $3,000 for that guitar, and it's Brazilian.
An unknown builder who brought in a really nice guitar to the store couldn't sell it for really over $3,000 or $3,500.
But a lot of people, Ed's guitars were going for $3,000 back then too.
3 or 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4, and now they're 22, I think, is where they start now. So.
Well, that's if you want like tuning gears and stuff. There are some entry models.
Yeah, but Ed has such a great stash of Brazilian rosewood. You really want that stuff, even though it costs an arm and a leg. We'll see. I'll do a tune for you here. Whenever it was the last I played, I was talking about traditional tunes, and I like to dig these up. I'll do an Irish tune for you. I first heard this, or I probably had heard this tune before, but it really came to my attention. I was at the Swannanoa Gathering in Asheville, North Carolina, which you just came from. It's a pretty cool place, big festival like this, except there's about 300 people there. And everybody sits around at night in tents and jams all night until they can't stay awake anymore. And they have a beer tent that kind of promotes the feeling of the festivities. They had a tent that was focusing on Celtic stuff, and they were jamming and they were doing reels and jigs and things and going crazy. And all of a sudden, they sort of brought the thing down. This young lady stepped forward and sang this beautiful song. And I just sort of said right at the moment, oh man, I got to learn to play that song, you know. And it took me a long time to come up with an arrangement that I liked of it, but that's where the inspiration came from. And I finally came up with an arrangement of it I liked in this interesting tuning. I guess this is my standard tuning night, because this guitar is also tuned to E, A, D, G, B, E, just in a different order. So I've got E, A, D, G, B, E. Just to make things interesting. So a C chord, instead of being like this, would be sort of inside out and backwards. Cowboy C chord. Just all inside out and rearranged, just to make life interesting. So this is, I'll do, Celtic tunes are so short that what people do is they string a whole bunch of them together. I'm just going to string two together. This is Down by the Sally Gardens, which is an air. And then I'll follow it up with a jig that I wrote. So it's from Ireland and California together, which isn't too strange, I guess. We got a lot of Irish people around. And mine doesn't have a name, so. But many Celtic, actually, you know, you know how you tell Celtic tunes apart? By the names, because they all sound alike otherwise. So I could name this anything, it'd still be the same. Anyway, Sally Gardens. Change guitars. This feels very different. Thank you. I'll do one more tune, as long as I'm in this crazy tuning. It's kind of cool. It's very interesting this kind of goes to some of the stuff like Max was talking about chord voicings and things this morning. It's interesting that you take the same exact notes, they're different octaves and things, but you take E, A, D, G, B, E, put them in a different order, and instead of what your guitar sounds like when you strum standard tuning, it sounds like this. It just changes everything, you know? It's still an E minor 11th chord, just like standard tuning is, but you just change the order and it just totally screws around with your head.
Here on the bottom strings, the lowest three strings are the three notes of an E minor chord, though.
This is true. Well, I've got E, B, E on the bottom three, and then a G. So I've got an E minor chord in actually a fairly normal voicing, other than the double brute, and then I've got the what would this be? The fourth, the suspended fourth, and the seventh. So, but you just change things around, and everything goes a little wonky on you. So this is a tune off that I recorded on my most recent CD. By the way, somebody asked me about this. A bunch of people have CDs back there. Dave's got a lot of CDs and things back there. Dan's got a CD back there, and I have CDs and books back there. So if anybody actually has a CD player anymore, and you want some of those, check it out. And I've got a bunch of books back there as well that some of you have already seen over the years. You're all repeat offenders here. But if you haven't seen them, I'm happy to talk to you about them. So this is off my most recent CD, which isn't that recent anymore. I need to get busy, get my act together. This is called Closing Time. Oh, thank you. Who's up first?